couple people here. Hello. Okay. Hello, welcome to my kitchen once again. This is the third live stream concert since the meltdown. And we continue to have non-compassionate, non-sane current events happening. Today I'm going to really get to a lot of music. I have a much longer set list than what I could probably get to. But this is a very unique show, and I'm going to play one song, then I'm going to talk about why it's a unique show, because I don't know who's watching from where right now, and we'll talk about that after I get a little warmed up. This piece is the perfect piece to relate to the fact that I'm simulcasting through New Orleans. I wrote this some years ago called Green Swampy Water. Thank you very much. That's the green swampy water. Getting a little warm in here. Like I said earlier, I'm going to focus on the music today, but in case anyone wonders on my views on other things, there's a few clues around. Fishbone is one of my favorite bands of all time. Probably seen them the most live of any band. And this is a kind of message that they've been spreading for decades. And all I can say is breathe deep and educate yourself. Now, and this is a good way to do that, which I finished last week. We have a lot of music to get to, as I keep saying. Let's thank Andy Durta, and it is his wife's birthday, Bonnie's birthday. Happy birthday, Bonnie. And Andy is an old friend. We lived in the same dormitory in the 1990s in Bloomington, Indiana University. And that was where I learned to breathe and play classical clarinet, play and compose funk music with the band Flatus, played bari sax and flute and vocals, orchestral bass clarinet, progressive rock robot bass clarinet, and experimental, composer doctorate recitals, as well as learned to record. Of course, I'm way behind on gear, so I hope this all sounds pretty good. I haven't really been keeping up with the audio world since the mid-1990s. But my pal, who shares the same birthday, same day, same year, also in the Collins Living Learning Center dormitory, and in the audio program with Kevin Shima, who played on this same series from LA last month. And so I'm coming to you from the beautiful Marin County, California, just north of San Francisco, in our semi-converted barn, and going to the NOLA SideBar Scatterjazz broadcast. And wherever you're watching from, if you're on the NOLA website, the SideBar website, that's where you would donate your admission. I think they have a whole program for virtual beverages. I'm not sure how that works. I have a real beverage here that you can smell a little bit, but you can't taste it. And on their YouTube channel, subscribe to their YouTube channel, because that way you can tell whenever you're on your computer and you're on YouTube when somebody amazing is playing through this venue. Because since I've signed up about a month ago, there's always these alerts of people, and there's a certain standard of musicality and creativity that the programming simply does not go below. So even if you're only going to watch for a couple minutes, check out who's playing. They've got people live from the venue, live streaming all the time. They've got people live streaming from various locations. So this is a very progressive and creative music series for creative instrumentalists in the larger scope of the jazz idiom, which kind of includes almost everything that involves instruments. So let's continue right on. I've got a computer over here for some chat here. Hello, everyone who's on the chat. We're using the phone for the broadcast, so that's great to see everybody over there. We're going to keep going with this piece, again with the two flutes, but I'm going to go back to the other flute, and I'll talk about what this flute is for those of you who might have never seen one in New Orleans. I know there's people who play in New Orleans. The Shakuhachi. This is a bamboo flute from Japanese Zen Buddhism. We'll talk a little more about that. There's nothing, it's pure magic. There's nothing in here. It's empty. Let's see. There's no reed, there's no fipple hole. So if we play it forward, it's not that different from backward. And if I had my paper towel roll here, you'd see it's the same principle. So it's up to the player, the symbiotic relationship with the bamboo, and then the sky's the limit. You can play whatever you want, more or less. This is called Hymn to the She-Dragon of the Deep. Thank you very much. That piece is on the album Holy Flute, and I wrote that in 2012 for my partner in the barn, Dr. Felicia India Chavez. And she's here at this concert because this is where we live. That's what everybody's doing these days. Next month, I will be playing at a venue in San Francisco, even if it's just by myself, and they're going to live stream from there. Their first solo concert is on June 5th, so we'll see how that goes. Probably no audience, but music in the church, which is a great acoustic. Obviously, that's where we were supposed to play back in April 5th with the Heavy Roots Shakuhachi Ensemble. We'll reschedule that at some point before too long. All right, everybody's still watching over there, and hopefully it's going well from New Orleans. All right, looks like it's going pretty good. This next piece is a brand new piece. This is a what we call the world premiere in the classical world, but it's not a classical piece. I've been doing the deep dive with Mr. Son House, also known as the father of the folk blues, the grand godfather of the Delta blues. He has a lot of names when they release his compilations, but he lived from 1902 to 1988, and plays bottleneck slide guitar and has one of the most massive voices you'll ever hear. He was a preacher before he played the blues, and of course he's famous for the song Preaching the Blues, and that he does. And I've been getting bootlegs and all these other recordings of him that are around from the 60s when he was brought back into the music world. And one of them has a bunch of songs where he's just singing with no guitar at his house. And it's like very essential and very sort of haunting. And so he's singing what I feel like are moan pieces or gospel kind of pieces, even if he's still singing blues lyrics like I'm So Sorry, Baby is the name of one of the songs that really influenced me. And so this is kind of, I absorbed about 3 or 4 of those and wrote my own version of this kind of improvised, slow, melodic moan piece, as I'm calling it, and it's called Dark Tree Moan. In parentheses, Son House Chant. World premiere. Tree Moan, brand new. Now that is a very improvised bass structure, which is a little bit challenging. When you first write it, it seems a lot easier because you're like, oh, I don't need to figure out the form. I'm just gonna, make it up each time. But then what happens is sometimes it's really great, and other times it's kind of like not quite in the flow. So, and you can only record so many rough drafts, but it remains in that sort of looser structure. There's little riffs and certain melodies, and it's simple, but the expressiveness of the tone is the priority. And talk a little bit about this instrument. This is the root end bamboo flute of Zen Buddhism, and this is the size that most people play, and I'll be playing this again at the end for the fast, high energy stuff. These are the size that myself and most of my students are focusing on, which is the Taimu, made by Ken Lacoste in San Francisco. And these are wider bore. Let's see if you can see the difference. Now this is what we call the regular. This is what we call the alto, almost bass. And this is be a very bass. Now when I call something bass shakuhachi, which is my other term for what Ken called Taimu, I'm not just referring to this a lower part of the flute of the family, but also to how I think when I play. Because I played with an amplified bass clarinet as a bass player for many years, and then in a bass clarinet quartet as the bass role. And my writing is very drummer and bass player influenced. And so circular breathing is an important feature of that ability, and so that you have melody, pulsing, and bass lines are possible. And this is something that feels really good to do with the breath. If you know how to do it in your mind, but the breath can't line up with the pulse, it's your breath that has to be part of the rhythm section, not the mind. And so that's a kind of a pioneering frontier that I'm exploring. A lot of these songs are based around that notion. The other idea is that this instrument, played in Zen Buddhist monasteries to accompany or to just adopt chant or adapt chants, and was also used in ensemble. It's a lot more expressive than you'd think for only having 5 finger holes and no mouthpiece or whatever. And you might have noticed already there's a lot of pitch slide and distortion and breathy sounds that are possible. To me, this is a great opportunity to bridge the gap I always felt as a clarinetist saxophonist from being able to do what gospel blues and rock singers can do, and what bottleneck slide guitarists can do. And to a much lesser extent, fretless bass and trombone players, but they're slidey too. But the expressive sounds and the sounds that are these are on purpose. I'm playing the Scatterjazz series, so I figured I didn't have to say that, but usually I try to point out that exploring these expressive qualities is a big part of it. Next we're going to move on and do a John Coltrane piece called Spiritual. And of course this is a spiritual flute coming out of Zen Buddhism. John Coltrane was a very spiritual dude, and now he's a saint. And he was really exploring a lot of the same things that many of us on these flutes explore. So there's a handful of his pieces that are practically perfect to treat as Honkyoku, which is the monastic repertoire, which I'm going to play one after that. So it's a solo, unaccompanied, pulseless, chant-based, avant-garde nature meditation art form, Honkyoku. And so Coltrane was kind of he was doing that. His last tour was in Japan. He was playing Eric Dolphy's flute that he inherited on the whole time. And he came in contact with the shakuhachi, and they loved him in Japan. He would have eventually played shakuhachi, but he passed away just like a year after his Japan tour. Incidentally, Eric Dolphy, who passed away even before that, in 1964, he already had a tour in Japan booked when he passed away in Berlin in 1964. He was going to go all over Europe and then to Japan. And so Eric Dolphy's a huge influence. Most of you know I used to play bass clarinet. And a little bit later, I'm playing a new piece that's a tribute to that guy. All right, here's John Coltrane's Spiritual. Saint Will I Am, John Will I Am Coltrane. Spiritual. So, normally at this point in the concert, I would ask for either requests or question and answer. But hopefully everybody's hearing everything okay and enjoying themselves. I told myself I wouldn't do any real preaching today. That's why I made such a long set list, so I had to keep playing. But the tea is a necessary component. And hope everybody's doing good. I'll give you one thing before this piece. So this piece is called Daha. And this is a Honkyoku, which means it's part of our solo repertoire like I was talking about earlier. And what it means is to conquer, surmount, or overcome. And for pretty clear reasons, that's why I picked this today. We have a lot of systemic iniquities and disastrous practices in place that we will have to overcome. Not just in the US, but particularly and all over the world, not being able to handle such a kind of predictable medical crisis, not being able to reasonably train peace workers in compassion, but rather in warfare. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Like I said, I recommend Dr. Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist, which is, for obvious reasons, really popular right now. I like listening to him on YouTube, and last year I went through a phase of listening to James Baldwin like all day on YouTube, and I really recommend listening to James Baldwin because he's kind of a genius and a very good speaker. And I'm working up to actually reading his books. That's right around the corner. All right, here is Daha. So this is kind of like one of the more aggressive of our meditation pieces. This is a meditation piece, but it is an energy meditation piece. Okay, Daha, or overcome. I was practicing that yesterday, of course, thinking about George Floyd and his family and the whole rest of the really emotional and disturbing situation. And there's a lot in Honkyoku where we're really drawing from deep within from the air, and it's a little bit similar to a grieving process, sort of physically and emotionally. And then there's a lot of lines that I realized, and not just in our pieces that are written for funerals, but which this one isn't really, but there's a lot of Shakuhachi really has this crying quality to it, very expressive and emotional, and it draws up the air in a similar way to singing, but slightly different, working with the bamboo. All right, continuing on here. Oh yeah, also I would say that that rendition of this Honkyoku, my students and myself have been posting, and there's a playlist on my channel. They're all, most of them are unlisted, but we're playing these difficult pieces, sometimes on flutes that we're not used to, or a piece that's a little too hard for us. And I call the series Gnarly Honkyoku, taken of course from surf culture, where if you sort of survive something, it can have a heightened effect on your prowess from that point forward. And so these pieces are a little bit of a safer version of that, where we just kind of go for it with the breath. And the versions aren't necessarily what we would call concert or meditation appropriate. That was definitely a gnarly version of that. Influenced also by one of the patriarchs in the lineage, Watazumi-do, and there's a little bit of him on YouTube. You can find Watazumi. It was all about the breath and the bamboo. Oh, I see. So now the next piece here, this is the second of the two world premieres, and Eric Dolphy was a big influence, as I said. He's a jazz icon, legend on flute, alto sax, and bass clarinet. Read about him playing with the Byrds on his alto flute when I was researching him in the 90s, and of course that was a little seed planted for what shakuhachi is and does. And again, I have a theory that if he had lived past the age of 36, eventually he would have gotten around to exploring these flutes, this repertoire, and some of the expressive nature connection stuff that we do. because he was already doing that. He was also already doing long tone practice at an extreme level, according to an interview with his dad, where he would practice one note for a whole week and record himself until he got it right, according to his dad. So, obsessive, maybe. Deep, definitely. So this piece, and he had a piece called the Mandrake Speaks, the Panther Walks, which was just reissued as just called Mandrake. And Mandrake root is, of course, an important part of sorcery, which all of us do, I think. And we're all about roots. These are the root end of the bamboo. For those of you just joining us, you can see all these northern roots that we like. And so I already had a piece called The Heavy Root Speaks for the ensemble, and this piece is then called Mandrake Walks, which is a contraction of his The Mandrake Speaks, the Panther Walks. And it's a very spacious piece. It's also kind of just a sketch right now, but you guys wouldn't have known if I hadn't told you. This is for Eric Dolphy, brother Eric. Mandrake Walks world premiere, or premiere in process. So we're at 13 minutes till the hour. I'm not really sure how long I'm supposed to play, but I got a bunch more pieces on the roster here. Because I got the big flute out, I'm simply going to do a little improv on the 3.2. So if you can see that this is what is kind of took a while to get used to, is a big flute to play faster or medium paced stuff on. This one is even bigger. This is longer than my leg, this flute here. And just so you can hear some of the sounds, just going to do a short little improv of this one. And then go to the high energy small flute stuff. So stick around. Okay, just to take a little break here, do a little stretch. This is one of the stretches I made up. Let's see if we can crack the spine. I don't know if you can hear that, but that felt good. So here's our breathing exercise for the day. Let me talk briefly about breathing. That's a big part of what we do here. And the correct way to breathe is to fill up from the lowest part of your lungs. This way you get the most oxygen into your bloodstream. And guess what part of the body takes a lot of oxygen to operate? It's the brain. And the fact is, in modern society, most people are breathing down to about here, at best, after about age 10 or 11. I don't know if the recent studies have been done, but these were studies even from 20 or 30 years ago. So I'm sure with the devices, it's even worse. We're grateful for the devices. That's how we're all here together. However, this is where you want to breathe. Or back here. So put your hands here between the kidneys and the kidney points, if you're a Tai Chi person. Breathe into the palm of your hand. In through the nose. So the chest doesn't really move unless you breathe in a really deep breath. One way to check yourself, are you able to fill the lowest part of your lungs and move the belly and the abdomen and the diaphragm on the inhale, is to do like so. This keeps you from moving the chest. And you can see this belly will go out. And it should feel relaxing. So that's the breathing lesson for the day. I thought I had another one. Oh, the other thing I like is to visualize from the apex of the nostrils down to below the belly button. Picture that as a straight line. breath takes almost no time to go from between those 2 points. And that's a lot of what's happening when I'm playing the faster stuff, circular breathing. The breath has to go, shoot through here and down to here. How does it do that? Do you suck it in through the face? Do you sniff it in through the nose? No, it's the diaphragm and these muscles here that pull it in. So they pull it down through the nose. Get that air and oxygen to the lowest part of your lungs where there's more blood, so you have more oxygen in your brain, so that Homo sapiens can potentially realize its full potential instead of, instead of fucking around and paying attention to all the wrong things. Okay, that was my little sermon. Speaking of sermons, I recommend this guy. There's some of him on YouTube, the Reverend E.D. Campbell, 1927, Memphis church services. I don't know why, but I really like that guy and his sermons and his little congregation. I listened to it almost daily for the last month. Okay, so what's next? Small flute. So I got the Fishbone shirt on. We've got their message. They had an album in 1995 called Chim's Badass Revenge. And I did an arrangement of the title track for the small flute. This is a great song. The whole album is amazing. Go to Spotify or wherever it is, Chim's Badass Revenge. It is some of the best music, but it is also some of the best drumming, specifically that album. Philip Fisher drumming with a 5-piece version of sort of a punk rock Fishbone, pocket trumpet, bass saxophone, some theremin, bass guitar and drums. And this is the opening track, Chim's Badass Revenge, and I did an arrangement and put it as track 1 on my album that came out last year called Sacred Root, Kung Fu Flute and Buddhist Blues, Shakuhachi Unleashed Volume 3. That's also on Spotify. Chim Chim's Badass Revenge. How's everybody doing? I can't see you or hear you, but you can give me a thumbs up. So we're going to continue with some fast, high-energy, small flute stuff. This is a piece, another virtuosic piece for the small flute. And I thought a lot of you have been hearing me lately. I keep playing it because I'm going to get it right one of these days. This is my sort of Jimi Hendrix Paganini for the Shakuhachi called Underground Sun. Okay. All right. Welcome everybody. This concert's now going to start. It's 3 o'clock here, 5 o'clock in New Orleans. I don't know if we were going to only do an hour. I think I'm going to keep going and do just a couple more. For instance, I think something happened to that message there. So this is the Shakuhachi. Yeah, so we've got a couple more pieces. Actually, on the list, I see a piece that I wrote maybe 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago. I've barely ever played it. In fact, we could go ahead and say this is also a world premiere of this piece. It's really short, and it's called Womp Bamboo. And I wrote it after a phase of listening to a lot of Little Richard on YouTube, maybe 2 years ago. And of course, since that time, Little Richard Penniman has left the planet, and he was a truly remarkable vocalist and performer and icon and legend. And so a lot of those pieces from that era have a very kind of a snappy version of the blues. And one day, practicing up in the woods, this little ditty popped out, and it's a little bit concise. So I hope I can do it, because I forgot about it till yesterday. I practiced it yesterday. Let's see what happens. Womp Bamboo for Little Richard. All right, that's the show closer if I've ever heard one. However, I'm gonna go back to the big flute, and play one more for everybody. So after I finish this song and sort of sign off, I'm not gonna shut off the thing yet, because I'm gonna go. I'll go between my YouTube channel chat, and then I'll go to the SideBar YouTube channel and see if anybody has any questions and wants to chit-chat as I move from tea into porter, which has become a tradition here at the house concerts on Bamboo Gospel Sunday afternoon concerts. Bamboo Gospel is my name for the genre that I'm playing, because gospel and blues form the foundational vocabulary for all the jazz that I learned really early on, and then circled back to those really fertile art forms. And even though, and the gospel means the good news, and to me the bamboo is the good news. And expressive music is also the good news. And get questions ready. I'm going to play just one more. This is the namesake of our Shakuhachi school, the Black Earth Shakuhachi School, which I named after I wrote this song called Black Earth. Then I realized that Nicole Mitchell, who's an incredible flute player and composer and performer, already had an ensemble called Black Earth Ensemble. But there's also a town, I think, in Michigan called Black Earth, and so there was already also a Black Earth school. So in spite of my mandate to always be nonconformist and have absolute uniquitude in naming, it was too good. Black Earth is too correct. It means a lot of things. It's one of the translations of the word alchemy, which is about transformation and the place where death and new life merge together and form spiral cycles. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for those concepts, both physically, as in soil, and metaphysically, as in your consciousness and your soul. Plus, the tea that I drink looks kind of like it could just be some dirt. Cheers to all you tea people out there. All right, we got some good some of these and some of these and some fire over on the side chat here. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Thanks to Andy. Happy birthday, Bonnie. Thanks to Keith, his SideBar. And like I said, sign up, subscribe to their YouTube channel, and you know, tune in whenever they've got people. I saw two bari sax players, and one guy had a bass sax, and there was a couple weeks ago, and you know, playing like groovy, bluesy, and jazzy stuff. And there needs to be a lot more of that on the planet. Any of you that know me know that the low reeds and the low flutes have been where I go to, and anything that is groovy is good. Well, almost anything, but you know, if you know what you're doing. Anyways, SideBar, sign up, watch the music. Here's Black Earth. Okay, that's the end of the music for today. A few little announcements. June 26th at Old First Church in San Francisco. That'll be streaming on their website. They already have the YouTube link up, so you can go to YouTube, put my name in, Old First Concerts, and set a reminder for that concert. The end of July is the Outsound Music Summit that the Heavy Roots Shakuhachi Ensemble is scheduled to play. If that summit will happen is still unknown, so nobody knows. Also, June 18th, Center for New Music is going to be broadcasting an encore presentation of my birthday show from last year. So that's also maybe not on YouTube, but through Center for New Music website. So Center for New Music, San Francisco. And they're a kindred spirit to our SideBar NOLA experience today. Two venues just like a lot of people are struggling to keep afloat in this thinned out time. So head over to that June 18th. I think it's a Thursday, maybe. And you'll see it's kind of an edited version. It's not much of me babbling, but there's a lot of music on my birthday show last year. My 45th birthday, for those of you keeping track. And we had donuts, and we had beer, and we had a bass clarinetist playing one of my pieces for Shakuhachi. We had some of my pieces played by other people than me. We had a kind of a sketchy premiere of the ensemble. It was basically an open rehearsal that we closed the show with, just to get some of our sounds combined in front of an audience before our premiere in October. So those are the announcements. If anybody's got questions, we do a little Q&A. But Keith over there at SideBar, if you wanted to chop it off now, you could. I could say adios to those of you in New Orleans. If you want to keep it rolling while I'm rambling over here, if anybody has questions, then be my guest. And on the SideBar website, they have the virtual admission and donation buttons pretty clearly marked there. So just use those. Don't send me any money unless you really want to, but send it all to them for this show. And this was really fun. Thanks everyone for coming. And this may only be 5 minutes long if nobody's got any questions. I'm over here at the chat box. So we got Stanley's quoting Lenny Bruce here. That's a good point. Lenny Bruce has a lot of good points. Let's go to SideBar. Okay. Still 10 people here. Couple of people over here. Well, I think so. Stanley, that was a question. Yeah, it's a door split. All right. Somebody says that Dolphy were digging. That's good. All right. We got some good comments, participation. Oh, here we go. There's a couple questions. Can a pencil or other style of mustache improve tone? That's a great question, John. No, I don't think so. I just happened to notice when I was posting, I've been listening to all this Son House and Little Richard and somebody else I'm forgetting, all had this very thin mustaches. But no, it just gets in the way, I think. It's purely aesthetic that we have the mustache. Because it's kind of a parallel to the roots down below, to have something a little bit scraggly going on up at the mouthpiece. That's my theory. But I do have some students who say I think mustaches are a little longer than they should be. And the air comes off the top. And if you let it get too long, it kind of interferes with that, I think. Of course, if your lips were puffy enough and big enough like they should be for the embouchure we use, it wouldn't really get in the way. But I'd like to see your next video, John, where you just simply draw on a little like, vaudeville mustache. I think that would look really good on you. Just a little penciled in mustache. How did you cross the way of bamboo flute? You mean how did I? You mean which cross do I want to be hanging on the next time I play the bamboo flute? Yeah, I'm not that into that much sacrifice. But if you mean how did I find out about Shakuhachi, it was just a recording of Ronnie Selden on this series called Trance from the Ellipsis Arts record label. If there's still have any albums around Ellipsis Arts, I highly recommend. They used to have these little booklets, really good sort of field recording, ethnomusicology, but with a lot of integrity, as opposed to with an ethnocentric kind of approach, which is how ethnomusicology started and folklore started. But this was stuff from the 90s. Trance 1, Trance 2, Trance 3. These are not beats. These are not dance trance music. These are real traditions from Sufi dervish music, from, I think there might be some tracks on Trance 2 from Zimbabwe, and there's the Shakuhachi, there's Indian Drupad singing, and really good fidelity, really good recording. So I thought, oh, that's a nice sounding low flute. It was a 2.4. It was playing Choshi. I thought that sounds pretty easy. I'll get one of those and play that. And that was 19 and a half years ago. And here we are. Okay. So we'll see all of you on June 26th. Yeah, good to see everybody here. John, Nicholas, Stanley, Mom and Dad. Baines over here, at least he was. Somebody said, how is that notated? Well, the Honkyoku notation, the Shakuhachi notation is its own system. It's kind of based on chant. Oh, I hope nobody else's feed died. Yeah. Scott Travis drinking some tea with us, maybe. Kari Tenchi. All right. I like these pictures of flowers and fire and hearts. That's nice. Okay, everyone, we're going to sign off. And thanks so much, SideBar, everybody for coming. And there might be a jostling when I close the phone. See you next time.